Blog Talk Radio, the world's largest online radio network.
Well, hello, and welcome to the show. Sorry about a little mishap at the beginning there. Unfortunately, what happened is just as the show starts, Skype, decides to sort of like knock me out, and I didn't even realise it because I was actually speaking into the microphone, thinking the show had started. I was wondering why the music went away and everything. So, slight technical hitch there, folks. So sorry about that. We've got a great show lined up for you today. We've actually got not one count. We've got two interviews for you today. Two. The first one is with Simon Barry, who's the executive producer and creator of the brilliant new sci-fi series called Continuum, which finished airing about a month or so ago on Showcase in Canada, and it's just started airing over here in the UK on the Syfy Channel, and is yet to air in the US. So it's still relatively fresh. It's relatively new. And it's a great series. It stars Rachel Nichols. It's to do with time travel. It's got a load of genre stars in it from lots of different shows. It has Lester Doig in it from Stargate SG-1. William B. Davis has quite an important role to play in it. And there's absolutely loads of genre stars in this show. It's well worth a look. And the second interview is actually with Emily Rose, star of Haven, which again, it's only just started over here in the UK, and it's been airing for about 2-3 weeks now in the States. So these are both relatively new interviews. So without further ado, just before I get cut off again, hopefully I won't, we're just going to run the interview. So here we go.
There's a war coming.
How can you be so sure?
Because we're going to start it.
You can expect well-coordinated and violent criminal activity and some unorthodox tactics.
How do you get back to 2077?
We're here. We can't go back.
Okay, I'd like to welcome executive producer and series creator of a brand new series called Continuum, which has been airing in Canada for a while on Showcase. So I'd like to welcome the creator of this series, Simon Barry, to the show. Hi, Simon. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, I hope that was a good intro.
It was fantastic.
Okay, cheers. So tell us a little bit about the series. How did Continuum come about? What was the inspiration behind the premise of the show?
Well, it was really a challenge for me for many years to get some of my ideas sold and on networks, and I realized that I was trying too hard probably to push ideas into a direction that was a little bit more limited. So I was motivated originally by taking two genres and blending them, which was sort of a sci-fi driven show and a police procedural, and I felt like that was, just from a strictly business point of view, something that was a better attempt. And then, being a sci-fi fan myself, I wanted to build a mythology that would be fit in sort of the box that TV needs to be. So the police story merged with the sci-fi mythology felt like a really good opportunity for the sci-fi fan in me to get out what I wanted to do, but also because it was built around a police procedural, it could be structured in a way that TV networks were a little more comfortable with. So that was the beginning of it, and then I really just got down into building the circumstances and the characters, and the rest sort of took care of itself.
Cool. Well, when I was when I first heard of the series, actually a few months ago, and I've seen the first couple of episodes a few months back as well. When I first heard the series, it was actually sold to me as Time Traps meets Time Cop. Would you say that that's actually a good way to describe the show?
Well, I haven't seen Time Track. I was never really exposed to that show growing up, so I'm not super familiar with it. But Time Cop, certainly, I remember that movie vividly. In fact, when I was a cameraman, I worked on it, so I'm quite familiar with that movie. But the idea of a time traveling police officer is very obvious, I think, in some cases for this sort of merging of genres. I wanted to take it a little bit differently than what Time Cop had done, because in a lot of these time travel scenarios, the heroes are actually willing participants in the time travel, or they have a goal, they have a mission. In this case, none of our main characters is really operating under the idea that they are controlling this or desiring this. Kira, in particular, who is our hero, the cop, is really just an unwitting victim of this circumstance. So she has to really treat this situation much more like someone who would be stranded on a desert island rather than someone with a mission that has been handed down, and they know they're traveling through time and they have these things to do, which I believe in Time Cop was really kind of driving the idea forward. So in the one sense, yes, you could say there are comparisons, but from a storytelling point of view, this is very different in the sense that our main characters are not really prepared for this adventure, and it is a bit of a surprise to them.
I mean, you got a lot of great guest actors. I mean, having seen the pilot a few months back, you had William B. Davis, the Smoking Man, who's on like, and I'll not say too much. I'm not sure if it would ruin it for UK viewers, but he kind of plays a pretty important role, and we only see him really in the pilot. Do we see him again in the series? Does he come back?
Yes. I don't want to spoil it either for your listeners, but William Davis's character is certainly someone who they will see in the first episode, and I can promise that they will see him again before the end of the season. So he's someone who is integral to the show's mythology, and it's wonderful to work with someone who comes from that great tradition of the X-Files. And I can also say that we have other characters or other actors who are on the X-Files who will appear later on in the season too.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed there's all manner of cast members from a lot of great genre shows of the past. I can't remember the name of the actress off the top of my head. I think she was in Andromeda.
Yeah, that's Alexa Doig.
Yeah, Alexa Doig. She's in it.
She's in it, yeah.
I think she plays one of the terrorists, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. But that's another thing. So like, what I liked about it is your terrorists. They're not necessarily bad guys either.
No, there's one of the fun things about the show is because we're dealing in two time frames, the perspective of what people are doing is radically affected by the world that they're coming from. And one of the things that we wanted to do always was to create a show where things were never black and white on any level, that there was just this gray area of reality and perspective, and that you could really see everything from two sides. And I think that that's what's keeping the show fresh from the point of view of making the show, but also from an audience point of view. There's a great debate out there about who is the good guy and who is the bad guy, and I think that is a healthy debate, and I think it's kind of fun to see how people react to what we've portrayed as the good guys and the bad guys in the future, but also the reverse in the present, and how those different perspectives on things can affect the way people are rooting for characters in the show. We certainly saw that in Canada, that the so-called terrorists developed their own following, and people who felt that they were in the right, and of course felt that the police were in the wrong, and that Kira had to sort of wake up to that fact. But we've taken great steps to never make anything so clearly black or white that there can be a discussion.
Mm-hmm. You got a really strong female lead character in Kira, who's played by Rachel Nichols, right?
Yeah.
Was that your intention from the very start of writing the show to have your lead as a strong female character?
When I pitched the show originally as just a short document, I'd had a male in that part. But in my first discussions with Showcase about the show and moving forward, the idea of Kyle at the time becoming Kira was presented, and immediately I knew that was a great idea, and I embraced it, and thought that for audiences it would be a much more interesting perspective to tell the story from her point of view than his. So it was probably the first collaboration with the network in terms of a major idea that was presented, and it was one of those eureka moments where when it said, you go, of course, why didn't I come up do this in the first place? But it definitely helped ground the show in a way emotionally that was a little more direct than if we'd had a male in the lead. So I was really happy with that decision, and really happy with with sort of trying to execute it in such a way that it felt that we would be, we would understand this character better.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Showcase, from what I can tell, they're doing a lot of great stuff over there in Canada at the moment. I mean, they do Lost Scale as well, which is another favourite show of mine.
Yeah, Showcase has definitely become a destination for Canadian audiences for, I think, intelligent and creative shows that are familiar on the one hand, but also push the envelope creatively into fantasy, sci-fi, and other genres. So I feel really lucky to be working with a company that that understands why sci-fi audiences gravitate towards certain types of shows. That it's not just the worlds that you create, but it's the ambition and sort of trying to set the bar as high as you can for a show that's not only entertaining but intelligent. And the people over at Showcase are wonderful, creative, strong, business-minded people who definitely see the benefits of tapping into both of those notions of having strong characters, strong ideas, and that shows that are not afraid to sort of be what they are and really embrace the genre, and it's been a pleasure working with them.
Well, I had a look at your IMDb profile before putting these questions together, and one of the things I noticed you had quite a few writing credits. I think you was even involved to some extent on the Deep Blue Sea. Yeah,
I was one of I would say I think 6 or 7 writers on that movie in various stages. But that was one of my earlier what I would call assignment jobs, which is where I'm brought in to write something that wasn't my idea. And so Deep Blue Sea was my sort of first Hollywood job, in the sense that I was brought into Warner Brothers to rewrite it. And at the time, I didn't think I was going to be the second or third in a line of 6 or 7 writers, but sometimes that's the way things work out. But it was a great learning experience, and some of the people that I worked with on that movie, I've managed to stay in touch with many years later, and it's been every experience as a writer teaches you more about yourself and also the business. So it was, even though I can't claim to have done too much work on that film, it certainly, as an experience, is vivid in my memory.
Mm-hmm. As a writer of film and television, what shows growing up would you say had the most inspiration on you? What shows made you think, I want to do this?
Well, I grew up watching Star Trek, the original Star Trek, and I think I loved the idea that a show, especially a science fiction show, could take themes and ideas that were relevant to today, but repackage them in a way that they didn't feel familiar. They were, it was looking at a problem or looking at a social notion in a different direction, and presenting ideas that way. For me, it resonated as a young man, and I felt that you could talk about things in science fiction that you couldn't talk about things if you were sort of just a traditional drama. And I loved that idea. I loved the idea that science fiction could take a twist on an idea, throw it at the audience, and make them think. And so I guess from early on in television, Star Trek was a big influence. I also had a bit of I love comedy as well, and political humor, and so MASH was always a favorite of mine growing up as well, which is a very different type of show. But I think, I do try, and I'm not overtly political, but I love the idea of political notions and social notions in television and in drama, and so that characters can actually have a debate. And there is no right or wrong. There's really just the understanding that life is complex and people are complex, and any way we can express that through drama is wonderful. And I think one of the great things about sci-fi is that it's a great platform for that, a great platform to discuss many different ideas and themes.
Mm-hmm. Well, how did the episodes that have already aired of Continuum in Canada? Is there actually a particular one that you're really excited about the British audience seeing?
Well, I love them all, of course. It's hard to pick a favorite, but I think that for me, episode 10 is definitely, up there with one of my favorites because it's the last episode of the season, brings together a lot of different things that we set up during the season in a way that I think the audiences will enjoy. So, I mean, and also it's a big setup for season 2, which we've just finished breaking the stories for, and we've started writing. So it's probably for me one of the more interesting episodes. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I can't wait to see the whole series when it airs here. Actually, I did say I enjoyed.
Oh, I'm glad you. I hope you enjoy it. Also, the last thing I want sci-fi fans to think is that we've done them a disservice or wasted their time. I'm really hoping that British audiences respond the same way Canadian audiences have and enjoy the show, and also hopefully it makes everyone discuss it. I think the online community here has been really active with conversations about the show, where it can go and what it represents, and I hope the same thing happens in the UK.
Well, fingers crossed that it does. I've got one very, very quick last question, actually.
Sure.
As I said off the air, I'm actually a fan of web series, and I even helped produce one called Reality on Demand. And a few months before I was aware of Continuum, I actually came across a web series called Continuum, and I'm wondering if you're sort of aware of that.
I was aware, once we had originally had a different title, and we were asked to change our title, and so the title of Continuum came up actually after we were already in production. We were already shooting the show when the title was presented to us. At that time, we were doing title searches. A lot of times you go through all of these different show names to find out if there's one that has been used or hasn't been used. I was aware that there was a web series called Continuum when we did when we were asked to change the title, and so I hadn't seen it, and I'm pretty sure it's a sci-fi genre because I saw a thumbnail attached to one of the web links, but I don't know much about it. I think it may involve a spaceship, but I don't know much more about it.
Yeah, in the song, I've seen a handful of clips of it, and it does seem to be set on board a spaceship, so it's completely different to what you guys are doing. I was just curious to find out if you was actually aware where that was a series called Continuum on the web, because it's
Yeah, well, certainly we go through a lot of challenges just finding the titles from a legal point of view that we can use, and we had a massive search for a title at one point, and not just creatively, but from a sales perspective, from an audience awareness perspective, a lot of these things come up. So yeah, when you typed into Google Continuum back then, or Continuum series, certainly I think that was the first thing that came up. I'm hoping now our show is, but I haven't checked in a while, so I might be wrong about that.
Okay, well, Simon, I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate talking to you, and I hope your followers and your fans are keen to see the show and enjoy it.
Well, and I know of quite a few that already are based on what I've said to them, so.
Great. Thanks, Ian. I really appreciate the time.
Cheers, Simon. It's been great speaking to you, and best of luck with the series, and I hope you get a second season.
Well, we have a second season already, so that part is done. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for a third season.
Okay, and a fourth. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Simon.
You would do it. You would go back in time. If you had nothing to lose, nothing to live for, you would embrace it. And you would do whatever you had to do to destroy the future. You would do it too.
And that was Simon Barry, the executive producer and creator of Continuum, which aired on Showcase earlier in the year, and it's just started airing here in the UK
on Syfy Channel, and will probably very soon be hitting the US. And when it does hit the US, check it out. It's a really, really cool show. You know, it's got a lot of sci-fi names in it, such as William B. Davis. You know, not loads and loads of people guest starring in it. So it's a really cool show. Anyway, at the beginning of the show, I did actually brag about the fact that we got 2 interviews when eventually got the show started, because unfortunately, due to Skype cutting me off during the opening credits of our show, it took me a while to get back on there. But yeah, I've got the other interview, and it's with Emily Rose from Haven, and we're going to run that now. And as soon as that interview is finished, we'll be sort of like talking about some various different news stories. So, you know, please stay tuned, and thanks for listening.
Well, I'd like to welcome Emily Rose to the show, who's best known for her role as Audrey, you know, the detective, former FBI agent in the sci-fi series Haven, which is just about premiered here, just about in the UK. It's been on in the US for a couple of weeks now, but here we go.
People come to Haven, Maine for a normal life. Good morning.
What the hell just happened here?
But Special Agent Audrey Parker is about to discover
Whatever's going on in Haven is dangerous.
that normal just left town.
It's a quiet one you have to watch out for.
Every town's got a few skeletons in the closet.
Oh, this is a big freaking closet.
Haven, a new original series, premieres Friday, July 9th at 10, only on Syfy.
Hi Emily, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I've got a few questions. I'm probably not going to keep you as long as some of the other interviews you had, because I'm fairly new to the series, so I'm not as up on the mythology. So
That's all right.
So I've got a few questions. In a recent interview about the new show, which I've just watched on YouTube earlier this afternoon, you actually said that we will actually see a lot of the answers in the new series, but I'm wondering, will we actually get to see a few more questions explored as well?
Oh yeah, it's a really cool season, because we recognize that a lot of the fans that have been watching for a long time, you know, have had some of these looming questions about the Colorado Kid and about you know, who Audrey really is. And in our 3rd season, we plan to answer a lot of those basic questions. But we know that in order for the show to continue and for people to want to continue to watch, we have to pose new questions. So this is a really, really big season. We think it's one that, you know, new viewers like yourself can latch onto and get excited about.
Mm-hmm.
And then also one that rewards, you know, fans that have been fans for a long time. And so we have a lot of exciting moments early on in the season, I think, that are, you know, big answering point for fans. But things like at the end of the first episode, the Hunter, this is a brand new question that gets posed so that new fans can be privy to new information and be excited about finding that out too.
Cool. Well, I've actually just set my TiVo to record tonight's episode. just as the phone rang, I just finished setting it.
Yes.
You know, I'm not sure if you remember me or not, but I was actually on a conference call for the Christmas episode of Haven that you guys did last year. And I've got a friend that actually works in Nova Scotia who's very close to where you film. So I'm kind of wondering, you know, how you guys get on with the local talent in Nova Scotia. It looks like a beautiful place and everything.
Oh, it's stunning. I really feel like, you know, I never would have thought that I'd have so many friends and family now in Nova Scotia. You know, it really was the experience of Audrey and Haven in a lot of ways. You come in from out of town and everybody's seemingly nice, but you know, you're kind of on the outside, you know, at the small little town. But very quickly they took us all in, and we kind of all bonded by making this really cool show together. And now it's something where, you know, I miss them and, you know, wish I could be hanging out with them just as much when I'm home as I do my friends here when I'm there. So I just feel like I have two separate places that I live life, you know, a summer home and a winter home. And in Nova Scotia, it's a really really, really great group of people, a great little town that, you know, I really genuinely believe really enjoy having us there. And we really care for and appreciate and love the area of Nova Scotia that we live in. So I think it's a mutually loving relationship, or at least I hope it is.
Well, it's kind of funny because my friend Sean is well known in the area. He's called T. Sean Hardy. He's a musician.
Cool.
And you know, he keeps you know, every time we speak, because we talk a lot on Skype. You know, I've actually known him for about 9 years. He always mentions, they're shooting at such and such an area today, and you know, and his wife's always taking photographs as well. But it's even funnier because he was actually hired to write a song. As I said, he's a musician. He was actually hired to write a song for a wedding, and you know, he performed this song at this wedding, and apparently Eric Beaufort and the other actor from Haven were actually guests at the wedding, and they actually asked to meet Sean, and he didn't even know who they were because he doesn't really, he's never really seen the show properly. So he actually had that experience, which is kind of cool. You've actually been asked this before. Well, I'm just wondering, prior to taking on the role in Haven, had you actually read the Stephen King short story on which the series is actually being loosely built around?
Say that again?
Did you actually read the short story, the Stephen King story that Haven's been built around?
Yeah, the Colorado Kid. Yeah, it was definitely one of the first things I did when I got the part and realized that, you know, I needed to know a lot about it. But obviously, the theme of that story really is, which I really thought was cool to do, was really address the theme of an unsolved mystery and kind of what it does to the heart of a town and how it sort of unravels town and how everybody has their theories on what happens and how they sort of bond together, but there's always this sort of dark secret looming that kind of is very unsettling. And, you know, and what it feels like to be on the outside being told about these things through the eyes of Stephanie, the girl sitting there with these two older men and trying to piece it together and not feeling like you can get any answers. He's really, really great at making you feel the theme of a story, and not to tell you. And so that was really beneficial, you know, even though it wasn't wrapped up at the end, it kind of gave me the idea and the premise of what it would be like to not have something like that solved. It bothered me, and it was good that it bothered me.
Yeah, one of the things I've really enjoyed about the series so far, because I kind of seen the Christmas special and I kind of picked it back up from season 1 and went through to the end of season 2, and just finished getting through all those episodes recently. And one of the things that I really enjoy is the relationship that Audrey has with both Duke and Nathan. I would like to see any major happenings, you know, in those two relationships this year.
Yeah, I think the heart of the show lies in the triangle between those three. And I think season 2 ends with, you know, a finally feeling like they're making some verbal progress, being Nathan and Audrey, about them actually saying what they're feeling and not just, you know, working together. And then you see the beginning of season 1, you see that bond is still very much there, but you see a sort of setback happen for Audrey in terms of she feels there's an external threat out there that could have come after her and that she's kind of got a target on her forehead and she doesn't know why. So that's really disturbing, and she can't really focus on a relationship after that. And then at the end of episode 2, which is you know, coming up for you guys in a couple of weeks, we see another major setback for her. So the season will exist in how does she handle and approach both of these relationships? How does she keep them safe and protect them and also keep herself safe and also, you know, be true to how she feels? And that's a real problem that, you know, we as humans need to navigate in different situations, but it's really interesting to watch her try to figure that all out.
I mean,
she doesn't always do the right thing.
One of the fun things always that the characters don't always do the right thing, you know, I think, you know. But I really enjoy how it seems to be Audrey coming into Haven. She's kind of like, in a way, she's almost like mended the fence between Duke and Nathan, because right at the start of the series they didn't necessarily get on, And
she's the glue between those two, you know, and I think that's kind of interesting. In the first episode, we see that even though they're at odds, they're forced to work together in order to find her, you know. Even when she's not there, she's bringing them together. So that's a really fun aspect of their relationship.
Will Audrey's prior identities continue to play a part in the unfolding story this year?
Yeah, they'll be pretty much front and center, which is really, really exciting. It was exciting to me as an actor not to only be playing one person for a whole season. So it's one of my favorite aspects of the season is the different sides of quote unquote Audrey that I get to play. It was one of the most rewarding, fun things to be able to do.
Are we likely to learn what Audrey's real identity is this year, or is that going to be saved to the very last episode, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever really know who she really is or if she will really know, but she's in search for that for sure. I think like we all are, but she just has more issues than each of us do, or hopefully she has.
Well, you know, before I go, let's say I really enjoyed the Christmas episode last year.
Good.
I'm just wondering, is there actually another one on the cards at all, or is that a one-off?
Not a Christmas episode, no. That was sort of a treat that Syfy does for their fans when the shows have been gone for a while to come back. And because we moved to a fall show, I think now we might, I don't know when our episodes go up until, but we will be obviously covering the Halloween holiday, so we ended up making like sort of a Halloween episode.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You know, my friend Sean will be pleased. Halloween's his favourite holiday.
Yeah.
You know, so perhaps that can be his entry level. Perhaps that can be his entry episode into Haven. I'll just sort of badger him to watch and see if we can get him hooked.
It was a very creepy episode, for sure. Jason Priestley actually directed that episode, so it was great to have him back.
Oh, cool. Has he done anything in front of the cameras on the series? Has he acted in the series at all?
Yeah, Jason acted in last season. In season 2, he played Audrey's love interest for about 3 or 4 episodes. So, and also directed an episode last year as well. So he just came back this year as a director because he's got a big show that shoots in Nova Scotia as well called Call Me Fit. But it's great that he comes back and that he likes to do the show. Really, really worked well and enjoyed having him around.
You know, I thought he was kind of familiar, but I didn't quite recognize him.
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't because he's gotten older, but really fantastic. Yeah, no, he plays the mayor's son in the second season, who everybody likes, and that Audrey doesn't want to give the time of day to, so he ends up liking her back. It's a funny, very interesting story.
Okay, well, Emily, it's been absolutely brilliant speaking to you.
It's great speaking to you, too. Thanks so much for taking the time.
And I do hope to actually maybe be on one of the Syfy conference calls again at some point in the future.
Okay, great.
Okay, bye.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
And that was the lovely Emily Rose from Haven. Now we're going to finish off the show with some news items, and we've got some announcements at the end of the show about forthcoming guests that we have coming up. But you know, now it's some news. As you know, today is actually the 50th anniversary of the James Bond movies. On this day, back in 1963, the premiere of Dr. No was on with Sean Connery, and basically it sort of started the whole Bond movie franchise. So what better day to actually release the official James Bond theme song, the title song for Skyfall, and it's kind of funny because they actually launched it at midnight. At 7 minutes past midnight, so it actually read out as 007. You know, if you use the 24-hour clock. Anyway, the song was launched today, and apparently it's actually topped the UK iTunes store. It's actually number 1 in the UK iTunes store, and I think it's gotten to number 2 in the American iTunes store. The song is called Skyfall, and it sounds very much like a Bond song. I've listened to it, and it's a really, really cool song, and I'm not normally really a fan of Adele. Anyway,
it's expected to actually land last-minute chart placing in the UK on Sunday evening, but it's going to be facing competition from One Direction's Live, while we're young, and Rihanna's Diamonds to get to the top. But that said, if it does get to the top, if it does top the UK chart, it'll be the first Bond song by a British artist to actually get a UK number one, if it does get to the top. The closest so far was actually the Duran Duran song, "The Beauty Will Kill," back in 1985, I think it was, and that actually got to the number two spot. Adele actually wrote the song with Paul Epworth, who's a top songwriter and producer who has worked with CeeLo Green and Florence and the Machine, among others. In a recent interview with Hollywood Reporter, the singer-songwriter revealed that she was a bit hesitant to do the song when asked by the production. "I was a little hesitant at first," she said, "to be involved with the theme song for Skyfall. There's a lot of instant spotlight and pressure when it comes to a Bond song. But I fell in love with the script, and Paul had some great ideas for the track, and it ended up being a bit of a no-brainer to do it in the end." So there you go. So like Adele's, literally broken the UK iTunes network. No, she hasn't. But she's basically best-selling song of the day on iTunes in the UK and second best-selling song in the US, apparently. So there we go. What better way to celebrate James Bond than that? Bit of Star Trek news now. Apparently J.J. Abrams last night showed off precisely 3 frames from Star Trek Into the Darkness, which is the official title. 3 Star Trek Into the Darkness frames shown by J.J. Abrams teases Conan. It was basically a guest appearance on the Conan O'Brien show last night. The TV series Revolution executive producer J.J. Abrams was on Conan O'Brien last night to talk about NBC's powerful electricity-free drama and treated Star Trek fans around the world over to the first sneak peek of the upcoming Star Trek sequel, Star Trek Into the Darkness. Paramount, believe it or not, would only let JJ reveal 3 frames of footage from the new film. So it's pretty much over before you can blink, folks. It's literally in your face, out, gone. And the scene is basically, it's of Spock in a suit, and it looks like he's standing in the middle of a volcano, and that's pretty much it. That happened last night, and if you look on YouTube for it, you'll find the scene there, and there's quite a few stills dotted around the internet about it as well. So there we go. The new Star Trek film. We've got 3 seconds. We've got literally a second of wow. Okay, some Arrow news. Next Wednesday, we'll see the premiere of Arrow on CW, which is basically the CW's reworking of the classic DC Comics character Green Arrow. And basically, we got some quotes from the actor who plays him. I think it's Stephen Amell, whose prior shows were hung, The Vampire Diaries, and The Private Practice. So he's not really a well-known name, but by the time Arrow comes around, if it's big, he will be. Basically, sort of like he's saying that quite a lot of the backstory is revealed. He says the biggest problem for Oliver so far hasn't been any bad guys necessarily. It's been his relationship with Thea and Maura and Laurel to a lesser extent, but especially his immediate family, Stephen says. We'll see trouble with his sister off the bat, and there'll be more discussions immediately after the pilot, and then something is going to have to change, whether it's bringing them closer or giving up what he's doing as the Arrow. The way things are right now, it's deteriorating. The relationships in his family, he says. It's everyone's dream to put on a suit, whether you are a good guy or a bad guy, but I love the interpersonal stuff so much because there's always so much underneath what's happening. There's so many lines that can be played with, two meanings, and aside from working on Hung, this is my first experience, and that was, by definition, more peripheral than this is, and was my first experience where, like, I have a scene with Paul Blackthorne in episode 7, and I have a line to him where I go, okay, I could say it to him this way because of something that happened to him in episode 2. Then we had this experience in episode 4. Then we had this experience in 6. And because of all that, that completely covers the scene for me. Stephen explains further. There's a scene I'm really proud of in episode 2 where he tries to throw them off the scent a little bit. And I don't think it works as well as he wants it to. So there we go. There's a few choice quotes from Stephen Amell about Arrow. And he's talking about one of the guest stars. He's got 2 guest stars coming up in Arrow who will be coming in a few weeks after the pilot that fandom is chattering about. Jessica DeGrau will be playing Helena Bertinelli, the Huntress, and Stephen says they have great chemistry. Jessica is an Aussie. I've never met an Australian person that I didn't get along with really well immediately, Stephen says. She's really wonderful, and the chemistry so far has been great because we get on in real life. I do keep joking on Twitter. Just wrapped episode 7, my favourite since episode 6. But I have really, really loved this episode. The dynamic that she brings into the show, specifically, the way that we opened the show. There's a sequence that opens it, and the fight that closes it, and so much discovery in the middle of it. It really builds up, he says, pointing out the interesting fact that executive producer Andrew Kreisberg describes News of Fire, the episode that wrapped when we were on set as part of the 2-parter. We also have Doctor Who, former Doctor Who and Torchwood star John Barrowman, who'll be playing a well-dressed man. So basically, Arrow's pretty much got it all happening. And final news story before I make some really boring announcements is Rutger Hauer, who is actually best known to genre fans for his career-defining role in the classic Ridley Scott movie Blade Runner, has actually won a role in the 6th season of True Blood, which will air next summer on HBO. According to TV Line, the veteran actor will play Macklin, a mysterious and sinister figure with deep ties to Suki and Jason. Hugh is very well regarded by genre fans for his role in Blade Runner, but has over the years appeared in a great many science fiction and horror projects. These include Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Batman Begins, and Sin City, and guest roles in TV Smallville and Alias. In 1988, he won a Golden Globe for his work in the TV movie Escape from Sobibor. So, there we go. It's pretty cool. Rutger Hauer in True Blood next year. Damn, that's going to be cool. Anyway, we've got some announcements about forthcoming shows. I'm not sure what Jeff has lined up in Jeff Trek tomorrow. I'm just waiting for him to sort of type it into the chat room. So before we get to that, I'm going to sort of let you know what's going on next week on Genretainment. Genretainment's going to have 2 episodes next week. One's going to be on a Tuesday, in which the guest will be comics writer, and she's also written for animated series as well, Christy Martz. She's going to be on the first episode of Genretainment on Tuesday, and that'll be airing at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Tuesday. And on Thursday, they have the cast and crew from the award-winning web series Transolar Galactica on the show. So that's going to be a pretty cool one as well. And on SFP Now next Friday, we will have John Cabrera, who is actually the creator of H+, which is a web series which is available on YouTube at the moment. And this web series is actually produced by Bryan Singer, who did the X-Men, and John Cabrera is actually the writer and producer of that show. And we're going to have him on next Friday's show. He's a good guy. He's a pretty good interview, and he had a lot of interesting things to say. So we've got that coming out next week. But we're still waiting for Jeff to come through with the goods here. What's on next week's show, Jeff? You can call in if you want to. We've got 12 minutes left. So we need to know what's on tomorrow's episode of Jeff Track. You know, call in, talk about it. Come on, we've got 10 minutes. Oh, he's shy. Is Jeff shy? But we've got some great shows here on SciFiPulse Radio. We have this show SFP now. We have Geogratainment, which is usually it's going to be airing Tuesdays and Thursdays every week, except when Mark is away filming, of course. And we have Jeff Trek, the legendary Jeff Trek, which is on every Saturday at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. And over the last couple of weeks, it's actually worth you checking the archives, because the last couple of weeks, Jeff's had some pretty cool guests on. A couple of weeks ago, he had Manu Intarani, I hope I said that right, who played Icheb in Star Trek Voyager. He was in the last 3 seasons of Star Trek Voyager, and he was also on, he was talking about, he had a lot to talk about, a lot of interesting stuff he had to say about doing Star Trek Voyager. And here's Jeff. He's called in. Hello, Jeff. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Who you got on tomorrow?
Well, I was kind of half expecting you to beam me in, but I guess we just only do that on Jeff Track.
That's your thing. I can't be bothered looking for it on the switchboard. Got so much stuff on here at the moment.
I'm gonna have to beam into your show if I'm interfering next time, but we'll talk about that later. But we are on the second of 2 weeks of a fandom theme, a Star Trek fandom theme. Last week we interviewed Gary Barkley, a member of Starfleet, and this guy is one of the all-time fans. Check out the archives, Gary Barkley on Jeff Track from last Saturday. It was a good interview. This is one of the guys that gets in there. I mean, he's in there. He's met everybody. He goes to all the conventions. He has all the costumes. He even served our country in the Navy. In the Navy. But yeah, he's a wonderful human being and a huge Star Trek fan. This Saturday, we're continuing with that theme for one more week. We're interviewing a guy named Tim Wilson, a.k.a. James Olsen. He'll explain that on the show. He's an admiral in Starfleet. For those of you who don't know what Starfleet is a real entity where people get together in groups, they form starships, and they're actually registered with the Star Trek phenomenon. And we'll explain all the details tomorrow on Star Trek if you're curious. So beam on in. And when I say that, I mean that. You call in the show, I will beam you in. I've got the ability, I've got the power, and I've got the starship, the Star Trek Jeff Prize, or whatever you want to call it. Just call into Jeff Trek and or get into the chat room and voice your mind, and we'll definitely let you be a part of the show. Just because you're in the chat room doesn't mean you can't be heard, especially on Jeff Trek. But
yeah, with Jeff Trek, you've also got to be careful that Jeff doesn't push the wrong buttons.
That's right. Be careful what you say. I might just photon torpedo you. But
yeah, you beamed me in the other week with that button. I'm still annoyed about that.
You're floating in space like Captain Kirk did in the Tholian Web.
Yeah, I mean, so like as I was saying, you've had some great shows over the last couple of weeks. You had Manu Intarani, which I hope I said right. a couple of weeks back, and that got featured, by the way.
Yep.
And who's the lady you had on the week before? I can't remember her name.
Yeah, we had 2 very strong weeks. We had thousands of listeners tuning into Stephanie Osborne. She's a novelist. She worked for NASA as a contractor for over 20 years. She had a lot of wonderful things to say. Check out those archives because a lot of people did and they loved it. And then we had Manu Intiraymi call in, and he of course played Icheb on Star Trek Voyager. And it was a pleasure. We went a full 2 hours. He's an artist like I am, in all senses of the word. He even has artwork that he displays on his Facebook page. You can look him up. Manu Intiraymi. He is he was in Fortress, a movie that came out a lot like the Memphis Belle. Extremely well done movie. I was very impressed with that. So you can also check that in the Jeff Trek archives. Thank you, SciFiPulse, and you, Ian Cullen, for being such a good friend and professional peer.
Well, it's actually now called SciFiPulse Radio. We now actually have a domain, which is SciFiPulseRadio.com.
Oh, excellent!
So
excellent.
you're a part of SciFiPulseRadio.com now. None of this abbreviated Sci-Fi Pulse rubbish.
Oh, that's awesome! Glad to hear it.
But we got some great stuff. We got some great stuff in the works. Jeff, I'm not sure if you've listened to any of the genretainment series shows that we got on here now.
I've been really busy, but I know about it. I'm going to be checking it out in the archives and live. I've had a tough day. My grandmother died today, a few hours ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Really sorry about that. I know how you feel there. I was really close to my grandparents, and unfortunately, my grandparents didn't last as long as yours. Apparently, they both died when I was sort of like in my 20s. So.
Oh. Yeah. My grandmother was special. She was a rugged outdoor type. She taught me how to shoot a shotgun. I mean, she was awesome. She lived in Maine for most of her life, Moosehead Lake, and that's where we're going to be spreading her ashes on a canoe. We're just going to spread her ashes out on the lake, and but I have some very special memories. I call her Gam Gams. So we love you, Gam Gams. Rest in peace. We love you.
Well, at least you didn't call her Moogie.
Moogie! Oh, my gosh. Wait, now, that's what the Ferengi would call their mothers. I wonder what they call their grandmothers.
Smoogie?
I don't know. That's a question for the next episode of Jeff Trek. This Saturday at from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So...
Yeah, which I believe is 2:30 Pacific Standard Time, so,
Yep.
Yeah,
well, congratulations. Congratulations, Ian, on the advancement of SciFiPulse. It's a very strong name. Just listening to that name, it means business if you're into sci-fi. So, yeah.
I got a funny story, actually. Do you know how the name came about?
No, you never told me.
It's quite simple, really. Well, actually, the whole website, this is part of a website, people. So anyone that's listening in the archives, after the show, check out SciFiPulse.net. Head on over there because we've got loads of great stuff on the website. But the name Syfy Pulse came about. I was actually watching because I launched the site in 2001, and basically I didn't register the domain name till about a year later. But the name came about due to the fact I was watching Dark Angel. Do you remember Dark Angel with Jessica Alba?
Yes, I do. That was Jessica Alba, who is one of the most beautiful women on earth. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, she wore a catsuit all throughout that. Oh man, she was hot. But, moving on. Because we've only got 3 minutes to tell this story. But basically, at the beginning of that show, they talk about an electromagnetic pulse taking out the whole of an A, taking out all the electricity and whatnot. And I was sort of like riffing on ideas for the name of the website, and I heard, as soon as electromagnetic pulse, I kind of thought, well, yeah, Pulse, Syfy Pulse. And obviously, everyone sort of like thinks, oh, Syfy Pulse is on the pulse of sci-fi news and stuff like that. But that isn't what was going through my mind when I came up with the name. I came up with the name basically due to the electromagnetic pulse in Dark Angel. And I thought, it sounded kind of cool putting those two names together.
Yeah, well, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. To coin a British phrase, brilliant.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fandabidorsy.
It's bloody swell.
It was fandabidorsy, it was. That's a very British phrase. You have to have been watching lots of children's television back in the 80s in the UK to get that reference. Fandabidorsy. Okay. Well, that about wraps it up for this week. Very quickly, just to remind you, on Genretainment next week we have 2 shows. We have one on Tuesday with a comics writer, Christy Martz, and there's going to be another one on Thursday with the cast and crew of the web series Transsolar Galactica. And on Friday, next Friday, SFP Now will have John Cabrera on the air. He's actually the writer and creator of H+, which is a web series you can actually look at on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and type in H and Plus, you're going to get the web series there, and John Cabrera is the writer of that, and he's going to be on the show next Friday. I'd like to very quickly thank Jeff for calling in. To help the last 10 minutes go smoothly, so thanks for that, Jeff.
Live long and prosper, my friend.
And on that note, that's the end. So we'll be back again next week.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.